Welcome to Dacey's Divas. Hi, I'm your host, Dacey. Today we have a well-known publisher that has truly been out there making a difference for women for years. She is the CEO and founder of an exclusive magazine called Exhale Lifestyle. And please welcome this diva, Sandra Casagrand.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I got the name right. It was on my walk this morning, and I said Casagrand.
Yeah.
Think of a castle and then grand.
Yeah,
so
it actually means big house in Spanish.
Oh, nice.
Casagrand.
So
yes.
welcome, and thank you
you
for coming out of your busy schedule.
Happy to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about who you are first, and then we can get into your well-known, beautiful publication, your magazine.
So I am a woman who has been in the publishing industry for over 20 years. And like a lot of women, it was after I had a child that I fell into the publishing industry. Prior to that, I had worked at UNICEF.
And what did you do there?
I did some of their local outreach in the school systems, and public, speaker series for UNICEF. And I also did some of their fundraising for the New England branch. Mm-hmm. And my husband's publisher of a newspaper, well-established newspaper based out of Boston called Bay State Banner. Mm-hmm. And when our daughter was 3, I found juggling both, motherhood and my full-time job, a little bit of a struggle. And so when he asked me to come and help him at the newspaper for a short period of time because his advertising salesperson had left, it just seemed like a good fit at that time. So it would allow me to have that flexibility I needed with my child.
So did you go to school for that, or did you just learn hands-on?
Okay, so I had no idea anything about advertising sales. I knew absolutely nothing, and I didn't actually have someone in the office to train me. So I kind of had to learn, and this was
hands-on.
Hands-on, and this was before technology. So this was 20 years ago. So there was fax machines. Right. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't email. Right. So everything was hands-on. Hands-on, and we used to get, ads had to be delivered through FedEx and all of this. But I just rolled up my sleeves and learned what is advertising sales and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I thought I would just stay short term because honestly, advertising sales or sales in general is not my interest.
Right.
But I really learned a lot about,
I'm sure, 20 years later,
the industry. And I also became really interested in the content is what sort of kept me interested in kind of who gets to tell the stories and telling stories that are not often told in other places. So I actually became passionate about the mission of the newspaper. So that was kind of my start.
And then you went to Simmons, you mentioned?
Yeah, I had gone to Simmons and I studied history, and I thought that I would go into global women issues. That was my background, grew up several years living overseas, and so I was always interested in women issues globally, which is why UNICEF was a great fit.
For you.
But one of the things is that I noticed with my background and then working at UNICEF, I was always working to help people in other countries. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of realized in working at this urban newspaper that there's a lot of problems in our own city. Mm-hmm. And I became more focused on local news, local concerns, local issues. Right. So it really did teach me to focus in more locally, and that was an interesting.
Did you do people and organizations? Is that what you would cover when you did local, or?
Oh no, Bay State Banner covers economics, political, education.
Everything.
Yes, absolutely.
So you were involved in everything.
All of the, yeah.
So you had to be well versed back then, and back then they didn't have Google and Safari where you could just say, tell me this subject.
Yeah,
you had to go to the
when
library.
You live in the community that you're covering, it's pretty easy to kind of know what the story should be. And that's where another thing is, I think it is important to sort of, that's one of the things I came to learn and love about local news is that the people who actually live in the places, if they're telling the stories, somehow there's just more authenticity to it.
I agree.
And
I agree.
Deeper understanding of the topics versus someone outside of, your area telling your story.
Nice, thank you. So now, fast forward. We start
right.
this, which I love this magazine. I have read this through in
you.
and throughout.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about first, Sandra, how you came up with this amazing concept. It's similar to Dacey's Divas, but now
Right.
you're published. You do the print and I do the TV part.
Right.
So, and you started back in 2009. This came out 2010. But let's talk about that.
It's all about content, and the means of the content doesn't matter. Like, you're telling great content on TV, and I wanted to have a place for women's stories on the newsstand or in print. So we're both passionate about content. And so for me, back in 2009, I had been at the paper, about 10 years. And I felt like I had accomplished a lot for the paper, but I sort of felt there was missing. I kept meeting all these really fascinating, interesting women doing amazing things, and I would always say, why do I not know her? Like, how do I not know this woman? Right. You know, so I said, and it was particularly one event I went to, I was seated with about 8 women. Their stories were so amazing to me, and they were doing amazing things. One woman was, started Face Africa, which is an organization to provide clean water for women in
wow.
Yeah, all these amazing stories. And so, and I just said, I'm going to tell every one of these women's story, and I'm going to do one issue, and I'm going to create a magazine to capture these stories.
Good
and one of the things I liked is that all these women have all these advanced degrees, are doing all these things, and then we'll be like, oh my gosh, I love your earrings, you know. So we can. I love that two sides of women.
The content.
So I said, if I could capture that and put that somewhere. So that was, and I thought I would only do one because Bay State Banner has no resources for me to go hire people and all of that. So, and the movie Waiting to Exhale had come out at that time, and I really loved just kind of what all that meant, and I feel like women juggle so much with work.
Which they do.
And caretaking. Women are still the caretakers, which is whether it's your children or whether it's your aging parents. So I kind of felt like so many people would say to me, just breathe, you know. And I said, well, I didn't think that would be a good title, you know. So I really loved the name.
That's how you came up with the name.
That's how I came up with the name. Kind of like, take a moment, you know. And that's what I felt like that networking event with these other women was about, this moment where we all just kind of let our hair down and relaxed and
exhale.
So I did one issue. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have extra staff. And I had never done a magazine. And I just did not know what I was doing. But we cobbled together.
But you did it.
We did it. And I thought that would be that. And I printed, I think, 20,000 copies. And I inserted it in the newspaper.
Okay.
Smart. And then, 6 months later, I have people asking me, you know, when are you going to do it again? You know, so then I ended up doing 2 more in 2010. But by then, I did hire a better designer. And I ended up printing 50,000 copies.
Wow. Now, at the time, you didn't have a website. You have a great website. No website.
No website, because we didn't have, the banner didn't have resources.
Right,
and I did not hire additional staff to do all this.
Also, all those copies, that's great.
It was expensive. So we did, and we were in Roxbury, but we were also in Chestnut Hill. So we just kind of blanketed the whole area. And then in 2011, I did 4 more, and I started doing events. And then in 2012, it was taking over my life, and I still had to do the banner. So at that point, I had been contacted by people with means that would...
Yeah, I was going to ask you financial.
Yes, it would say, you know, you really should do something with this. And at that time, the banner was really struggling, and there's just a lot of other stuff going on, and I just knew I couldn't really do it at that time in 2012. My husband's health went through some issues, so I set it aside in 2012 and worked to get the banner back stable, and then also my husband, his health issues. So 2014, we started working on a plan.
Good. That's
to
what I was gonna ask you.
create a new company. It would no longer be under the banner. And get funding for that. So that was in 2014, and we are what, 19. Right. So in 2017, we got the funding together and launched officially the business January 2018, where we started to hire some of the team and started developing the website and all of that. So
great.
I can't believe it's been 1.5 years. It's been nonstop.
And it is a great I like it because it's not just one topic.
Right.
You talk about health, you talk about beauty, wellness, everything.
But that's what I felt
Food,
was missing.
Clothing, yes, everything.
Everything is either all lifestyle-y,
Right.
and it doesn't talk about, well, yes, we can care about our fashion and our personal style, but we care about so many other things as well, and so I kind of wanted to put it in one place.
Where do you get your contacts from? Where do you get the women?
Oh, they find us.
I know, right?
Well, not only that, like you reached out to us,
yes,
you know, and the thing is that we have like 15 to 20 freelance writers. We love to hear their ideas. And I also, you know, I've been around for a long time, you know, so I'm involved in women groups, and so we really read a lot, pay attention, and welcome people's ideas.
Right, and you cover the entrepreneurs, you cover their struggles, how they made it. I liked Kristen Canty's story, which was really interesting. And she's going to be opening up Pier 4. And that's, you know, I remember going to Pier 4 and the Popovers was my favorite. As a little girl, right? Who doesn't know the Popovers? But her story was interesting in how she went back to the carnation milk that her son was allergic to everything. And then here, she's done so well, and she had her husband who had passed of brain cancer. So this woman went on. That was an incredible story, and
I'm inspired by it.
Her story is great. So I love the stories that you're not just touching on.
Right.
You know, it's great to be beautiful and have health, and health is the most important. But it's interesting how these women come out.
Transitions are what interests me most. It's not necessarily the perfect LinkedIn bio that I'm looking at. I really like things that are maybe a little messier, little sort of, you know, roads that forked and changed and all of that. Because I think for women, because of childcare, for so many women, what we think we're going to do in our 20s is not necessarily what we end up doing because of all these other things. And I love how women create new opportunities for themselves.
Yes.
And that's what I loved about Juliet Kayyem's story. I love Juliet on so many levels, but the fact that here's this woman who was the head of Homeland Security worried about picking her son up from soccer at 3 o'clock. I said, if Juliet has to worry about that, oh my goodness. So she started Zemcar. It's the Uber for parents to pick up their kids to go to all their sporting stuff.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
That is interesting. And where do your contributors come from? They have great background.
Our freelance writers?
They're wonderful.
I have a writer in Ohio. I have writers all over.
All over.
Well, listen, it's hard to be a writer today. I mean, people are looking for free content. You know, people don't want to pay writers, or people, you know, so it's a very challenging profession, and writers want to write, like artists want to perform their art. So.
Right. Where do you get the funding from? Where are you getting your funding from?
So some of it's bootstrapped. So some of it is definitely our own commitment, and that's, you know, you have to make that decision, which is often the case for a lot of startups. You have to be able to bootstrap, but also we do have private funding.
You do.
From some investors.
Which is important.
And
where is your circulation? Is it basically all over? I know it's distributed up in this area, but are the women basically Boston-based? Is that, or are they everywhere?
Not necessarily.
No. You just had someone from New York.
Yeah, right. Yep. So my model for it is, as much as I do love local, and I will, you know, continue to, I do sort of see Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York is kind of where. But right now we are South Shore, North Shore, Cape.
You do a lot on the Cape.
We do, we did a lot on the Cape.
Yeah.
You know, I was interested in, the Cape is like so well known. When you tell people overseas you're from Massachusetts, they say, oh, the Cape, you know.
And chowder, right?
Chowder, right?
And lobster. And
so I wanted to see what role do women play on that. So that was in the summer issue. We took a look at that.
And you do a lot of online now too, not only in the issues that you're always out there promoting like these different restaurants and what to do, because people never know where to go and what to do. And I love following you on Instagram.
Thank you. I appreciate
Facebook, because I do like, oh, okay, that's a great, and you always mention her restaurant. I'm like, I have to try that restaurant.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it looks good.
So I think the thing about Exhale is because it is for busy women, and I feel like I have gotten lost in Google search. Like I'm looking for something, and all of a sudden I find myself off somewhere else, or my computer has crashed, or, you know, you can spend hours looking for something and getting lost in Google. So we felt like we want to sort of curate some of that information and say, here's some ideas. You know, we've done some digging and we'll tell you how much it costs to park. How, you know, all of those little details to save you
Which is
from
great.
having to, right?
Yes.
So you can exhale. We'll do it. We'll do all
You do the
that.
work.
We'll do all that Google searching.
How did you find the balance with your husband's being sick, running the paper? Like, how did you, like?
I don't. And
Right.
I'm going to be honest with
Yeah.
that. And I think that's part of maybe my subconscious
Yeah.
striving to, you know, find other women's stories. Like how does she have 4 kids?
Right. Right.
You know, so
It's true.
You know, and I say, I don't know. I admire, and this is why I'm so interested in women's stories, because I have one child, and I say, how do people with all these children do what they do? So finding that balance is an ongoing thing, and I do believe that it's hard at one point to have everything. So there's just certain chapters where I've had more of this, and certain chapters where it's now more of this.
Do you do any? Do you have any hobbies? Do you?
Yeah, I really love. I know this is going to sound. I like working out. I know that's.
Well, you can tell. You're size 0. Okay.
No,
You look great.
I like to eat,
Yeah.
so I like to work out. So, and I really have recently fallen in love with Pilates. So for some
That's
people,
hard.
it's yoga.
Yeah.
For me, my zen comes when I do Pilates.
And you need to exercise. Tell me how important it is to exercise, Sandra. It's just not
Totally
work.
keeps me sane.
You know, we're similar in age.
Yeah.
We talked about that before
Yeah.
the show. And, you know, in our young days, it was like, okay, we always knew to exercise or walk or the simple
Right.
things in life, ride your bike. But a lot of times, you know, we were thrown into working. And sometimes we forget to exercise or take care of our health.
That honestly, I have to say, it's a commitment, and you really do
It is a
have to
commitment.
make it a commitment. So when I moved my offices from South Boston to Lower Mills, I had to leave a gym that I loved and was at for 20 years. But because I knew it has to be
Heartbreaking.
convenient. It has to be convenient.
It has to be
And
convenient.
so I joined a gym near my new office. It's 5 minutes away. You know, so you have to make those. Juliet is a Peloton person. I went over to her house to drop off, and she's on her Peloton. She said, "This is the only way."
Yeah, that's new. A lot of
That
people, women that I know are buying that.
Right,
buying
because
those now.
sometimes you don't have time to go to the gym.
And waste
you
that
know.
half-hour driving
Yeah.
there, going and.
So it keeps me sane. It's my time for me. You know, whether or not you want to like really sweat it out, or if you just want to join small, low-key things. I really am an advocate for it. Yeah.
So you cover a lot with the exercise, and you tell women where to go.
Yes.
And which is good.
Yeah.
Amongst everything else. But how about, I guess, for a woman in your life, have you come across a woman that was a great role model as a young girl?
Oh gosh, you know, I moved around so much. You know, of course, my mother. You know, I mean, I'll give you an example. My mother's story. My parents got married when they were 16, and they're still together. And because I moved and I lived in other countries,
remarkable.
my mom had to be a stay-at-home mom. My mom started her career in her 40s,
Good for
and
her.
she just retired at 75. 2 months ago.
What did she do?
And she was the director of implementation for an international banking software company.
Wow.
Right? Like, I never would have thought that my mother would do something like that. So
Interesting.
it became, my mom's had the opportunity to have a career after the children were out of the house. So I admire that, you know, that she didn't have the traditional perfect type of resume, but she started off in real estate and then somehow just
Turned into.
yeah. So that's really to me amazing
That's
that
amazing.
to start off as
And she did something later in her life.
later in life.
Which I think that is
Like
fabulous.
how do you like start when, you know, I know
How do you start?
so many women that did stay at home with their children and now have to enter for divorce or for death reasons.
It's tough.
And they're like, I'm in my 40s, what am I going to do? And I always tell my mom's story. It's like, you can start, you can do it, you know. So that to me is an amazing story.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you. I always ask this question, if you had a magic wand, what would you wish for the young women out there in this type of an environment, Sandra?
You know, right. You know, I really wish they would, you know, don't you sort of say, I wish I knew then what I know now?
If we
That's
did, we
the
would
magic-
probably be, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's the magic wand that you don't have to wait until we reach this age to know what we know, you know, and to realize I see young girls getting hung up on certain things about what they look like or whatever. And I said, do you not know you're perfect?
Right.
You know,
It's
I
true.
mean, just perfect, you know. And so I just wish, you know, we would not be so hard on ourselves when we're young. Yeah.
It was different then. Nowadays,
Yeah.
there's so much out there. I mean, take your magazine, for example.
Right.
There's so much in here that
Yeah.
you can learn about
Yeah.
feeling good about yourself.
Right.
Those
It is
days-
much more democratic now because of Instagram and because of all these places
Right.
where there's no longer those gatekeepers that tell you this is what fabulous looks like. It was a very narrow definition before. So I think women do feel a lot better about themselves than they did when we were teenagers.
Well,
which,
when we were
you know,
teenagers, we were looking at the 17
yeah, we were
magazine.
looking at,
they were all like
you know,
your
Farrah
size.
Fawcett, you
right,
know,
Farrah
so,
Fawcett.
like, I can't, you know, I
the
can't
white
do that.
teeth and the beautiful figure. Yes, the right.
So,
And
yeah.
nowadays, it's like there's so much.
So
which
much
is-
more.
There is.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here now?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting times, and I think that one of the things that I find interesting is opportunities are out there, but there is still the issue of our infrastructure is not set up for work and motherhood still. There's still a lot of inflexibility in this kind of corporate structure, and I think young women, when they brush up against that, are kind of surprised. So I do wish that there was more conversation around fertility issues. You can't really easily have children in your 40s, so that's the difference between men and women. My husband was able to have a child later in his life, but that's not something that women can do. So we have more of a timetable. And I think that adds challenge to opportunity and all of that.
It does add challenge. And it's so expensive for these, like daycare, and it's
Who can afford that?
who can. And then some of these mothers, like you said before, they're single.
Yeah.
And they have to go,
Yeah.
and it's a big expense, and drop these children off, and you know, make the dinner and work the 2 jobs or the 3 jobs.
That's why it's exhale. It's like, how do you, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I admire women like that.
I do too.
I really do, because it is tough out there.
It's tough.
We're going to be wrapping up soon.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
believe it? I know.
No.
So, where are we going with Exhale now? Woo, we got to look at the new Exhale coming on. I cannot wait. I've been waiting for that one.
Yes.
I wish you got to send
Comes
that
out.
to me.
I absolutely will.
Now, we're going to go on the newsstands. We can
Yes.
get it anywhere.
Yes.
Okay.
Whole Foods, Barnes & Noble, and I forget the other sort of local.
How about pharmacies, like a CVS or
Not
Walgreens?
CVS
No.
and Walgreens.
Okay,
Yeah, no.
not yet?
Not yet. But more spas, and I do want it more in waiting rooms so that it can sort of get more readers. But you can always subscribe, which does help support what we're doing.
Yes.
You know, so that's available as well. So we're excited. We have an event in September. You know, follow us online, keep up with our events and what we're doing, and send us a note if you have story ideas. We absolutely would love to hear it.
So where can they get you? Your website?
ExhaleLifestyle.com.
Thank you so much. I have to
Thank
give you my
you.
traditional Godiva chocolate for the diva in you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. If anyone knows a phenomenal diva like Sandra Casagrand, please don't forget my website, divas.us, massachusettswomen.org. I hope to see you soon. Have a fabulous summer. Take care, and thank you so much for watching Dacey's Divas.